a Nintendo Direct gets announced, FromSoft considering co-op, and more layoffs from Embracer. On today's episode of TouchPad. Hello and welcome to Cross Circle Squared. I am Benny Gerkman, and this is TouchPad, your daily video game news show. Of course, today we gotta start off with a thing that everyone has been waiting for, that Twitter has been foaming at the mouth for some reason, even though there's not going to be that many good announcements, and it's this month's Nintendo Direct. It's been announced for tomorrow, June 18th at 10 a.m. EST. Of course, this is their big event for the year. This is a full Direct, not a partner showcase or whatever they call their smaller events. And they are very, very clearly stating as well that there will be no mention of a Switch 2 during the presentation. The Direct will instead focus on Switch games coming out in the second half of 2024. So far, the only confirmed dates we've gotten for games coming this year, actually, really, there's only one big one, and that's Luigi's Mansion 2, the remaster of the 3DS game. There's also that Pokemon Legends Z through A, but that's dated for 2025. Though if it is for the Switch 1, and I think it is, we could definitely see it. They do say it's focused on games coming in the second half of this year, so that's not to say we won't see anything coming, like maybe early next year. What else can we expect from this Direct, though? Well, I'm not sure if they'll show Luigi's Mansion 2 in like a big way, since that's already had its trailer and big announcement previously, but I mean, of course they'll show it, try to get some more pre-orders in. I do think it's weird that we're going to have Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3, but not 1. So maybe we'll see something like a little port or a slight remaster like Pikmin 1 and 2 got. You could release that later this year. That could be a pretty easy win. Of course, Pokemon likes to have a few projects in the works. So even if Pokemon Z through A doesn't make an appearance, I imagine we'll see something from Pokemon. Whether it be a remaster or a remake or a port or whatever, I don't know. Jeff Grubb, of course, this was like in 2022, so like 2 years ago at this point, really started the whole thing about Wind Waker and Twilight Princess ports, but we never saw them, and back then he said they were like ready, they were about to be released. So I doubt with how many people in the industry corroborated those rumors at that time that it would just be like a fluke or misinformation. I think it's fair to say that at some point those were in development or ready for release, and if we're ever going to see them, especially for the Switch 1, it has to be tomorrow. The Switch 2 is planned for next year. It's planned for the 2024 financial year, but quarter 4 of that. Or I think eventually they're like, oh, well, it could be, quarter 1 of 2025 financial year. So I think at most we're looking at like 8 to 12 months until we're talking about the Switch 2, at least in terms of announcements and being prepared for its launch. And so since we're only like less than a year away from that, I think it would be fair to say that all the developers at Nintendo are kind of putting all their biggest resources into Switch 2 games. So it would make sense if this is a lighter show. But also, again, it's 40 minutes long, and, Nintendo, they could have some surprises up their sleeves. But it's probably going to be like port or remaster size surprises, nothing huge. Okay, my excitement level for this is like 7, 8 out of 10. I'm not as well kept up with things that Nintendo are doing, so they could come out of the gates and surprise us, but, I've not seen anyone with that viewpoint, certainly in the industry, so I don't know. But we don't have long to wait. Again, June 18th, tomorrow, 10 a.m. EST. Okay, on to From Software, where studio president Hidetaka Miyazaki talked a little bit about the state of co-op in Souls games, and where and how there might be a future where we see easier, seamless co-op in their games. I'll, of course, drop a link below to this article. This is Wes Fenlon with PC Gamer. PC Gamer is one of the few physical magazines still around for gaming. Last week we talked about Game Informer. This is another one of those. So, of course, please support physical journalism. Essentially, though, the point of this article is that we saw this huge success with seamless co-op once Elden Ring was released. And Fenlon asked Miyazaki, how do you feel that people played the game through seamless co-op, which is this, he doesn't say that it's a bad way to play or anything, but it is an unofficial, unsanctioned way to play the game. And honestly, he seems pretty positive on it. Obviously, there was co-op in the original game, but it's an extremely convoluted system, and you can only kind of do it for a single fight or a fight-per-fight basis, and that sort of resets. Certainly not a great experience if you expected to be able to play with someone through the whole game. It's meant to be there to kind of get some help with the boss fight if you need it. Seamless co-op, on the other hand, as the mod title suggests, is seamless. You can play from the beginning to the end together. And now, despite it being maybe the most popular Elden Ring mod and one of the more popular mods as a whole on Nexus Mods, it is now developer approved. Why my screen just turned green, I have no clue. Poison Swamp, something, funny joke. But of course, the seamless co-op wasn't in the game originally. That really wasn't how the developers intended it to be played. But much the same, if that's how you want to play it, by all means, go ahead. And so much so that it's apparently in the cards for some of their next games. If so many people wanted to play and explore the world of Elden Ring this way, why not at least consider it as an official aspect of your next games? Does this confirm full playthrough co-op in Elden Ring 2? If that were to ever get announced, no, but I do think it's good for a studio like FromSoft, who in many cases don't really care how people want them to make their games. You know, they have this experience they want to create, and so that's what they design. That probably ends up being one of the reasons their games are so successful, but I think at the same time, it could also come with a caveat that sometimes, the best way to actually achieve that vision is through a way that doesn't originally come up as part of that vision. Of course, this article is in preparation of PC Gamer's cover article, all about Shadow of the Erdtree. The DLC launches June 21st, and you can grab a physical copy of PC Gamer at the link below. All right, next up, let's go ahead and go to Pieces Interactive. That is the Alone in the Dark remake devs, and they have unfortunately been shuttered by Embracer. They were bought by Embracer in 2017. They did a bunch of Titan Quest stuff before getting put onto the Alone in the Dark remake. Unfortunately, that didn't really meet expectations. It was listed as one of the titles that they were sort of unhappy with in terms of management on the management side. So, it's unfortunate, but it's the reality of things. Pieces already suffered layoffs, likely due to that sales performance just about a month after the title released, but now the entire studio is going to be let go. No word on how many people that is in total, but still, it's sad to see more jobs go, no matter how many. It's been a tough year. And this is, of course, yet another punch to the gut in the total murder of Embracer Group after their deal with the Saudi government went through, and they were just basically in financial ruin for a while due to overspending and overbuying for years. I'm not going to keep going on the story. It's been treaded over many times, but it's sad to see, especially with all the great IP and developers they had, that it was just so terribly mismanaged. But yeah, Pieces Interactive, no more. Okay, let's go ahead and talk releases and announcements. And first off, we have A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead. And honestly, this kind of looks incredible. It's a first-person horror game set in the A Quiet Place world. It's from Saber Interactive, so it looks visually very good. The gameplay looks incredibly tense. I mean, honestly, with this one, you kind of have to watch the trailer. The key art looks terrible. First of all, so when you're loading up YouTube and going to click on the trailer, the thumbnail and the Steam page, they look really budget for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. Could just be work in progress stuff. Not sure. Because I originally almost wrote this game off because I saw the Steam page and I saw someone post the trailer on Twitter where you just see the thumbnail and it didn't look great. But then I watched the trailer. I stuck around and it's really I'm excited for it at this point. There's something to be said about the A Quiet Place IP that I think it works for a game much more than a movie. It's one thing when you're watching the characters on screen and they can't talk or make noise, but when you're actually in the game and you have to consider every step you make and everything you touch is how much sound will this make? Will this immediately get me killed? I think it's a lot more tense than watching a movie. Okay, no actual big releases today, but tomorrow we do see Still Wakes the Deep, and reviews have launched for it. So OpenCritic of 76 for this one. That isn't great. That's just in the okay category. I think it's always important to remember with Metacritic and OpenCritic scores. Fallout New Vegas got a 74 or something on Metacritic when it launched. So, keep your expectations similar to that, but I don't know. I think with this one, it is a little interesting because you have some developers putting it, or not developers, some outlets putting it a 9 out of 10 and some a 5 out of 10. It seems like if you're looking for a scary, emotional, short little walking simulator romp, you'll be in for a good time. But if you're expecting anything more, especially anything long, you're going to be disappointed. Honestly, that is sort of what I expected given the Chinese room's portfolio, so I do think it's a little sad so many outlets are so harsh on it for a studio that usually makes short and scary, smaller games. Back in 2017, the whole studio was pretty much laid off after some difficult financial times. Studio leadership stayed the same, but this is basically a completely different team than Machine for Pigs, or Everyone's Gone to the Rapture. So this is sort of a proving moment for the developer. But at the same time, also, the Chinese room, they're currently working on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, so I imagine most of their resources are focused on that and a little less on Still Wakes the Deep comparatively. This studio was caught up in those Sumo Digital layoffs the other day, but I couldn't find any confirmation of anyone from this team being laid off, so that's at least a slight happy note there. Again, I hope this team the best, and I actually will load this game up this week since it's a day one Game Pass release. Still Wakes the Deep launches to PS5, Series S and X, and Steam tomorrow. Okay, that is all the news I have for you today. No real big content announcements or anything. Of course, I'm playing through Silent Hill 4 right now. We're going to get that video or that podcast out to you probably this weekend or the next. But other than that, that's all I've got. As always, I am Benny Gerkman. This is Cross Circle Squared, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.